Welcome back to MurrayMax. We have another Charlie Kirk video. This time it's not just his campus tour. It's him at Cambridge, and he did kind of like an open debate here. There was some good back and forth. There was even a kid that I saw kind of giving him a run for his money in some aspects. And so I'll try to find that one later and post it because there's some really good back and forth. I don't have like some blind allegiance to anybody and you know, just endlessly support somebody. But this kid down here in the bottom corner is the one that did a pretty good job debating against him, at least as far as I saw. He had like some actual structured arguments. He knew what he was talking to. He was a little bit cocky and stuff. But anyways, I'll try to find that video and review that one later too. But as usual, I haven't seen this yet. I only know the context of it. And this one says that Charlie leaves this Cambridge feminist resorting to insults. Who would have thought? Someone that opposes Charlie Kirk can't just debate and has to use ad hominems and insults and things like that. So, you know, nothing we haven't seen a million times. Let's get into this and be sure to like, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do, share it or don't. I'm just trying to build this channel in my free time. And so, yeah, let's take a look here and let me know in the comments what you think.
So I'm a feminist. My question is about the role of women, though. What should women's role in public and private life look like, and what are the material benefits of that?
Well, thank you for that. Can I take it? I don't really want to take this detour, but can we both agree on what a woman is?
Yes. An adult human female is a biological state of being that is also socially experienced. Can I please elucidate just one example of that social experience?
Yeah, I was going to answer your question, but sure, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So let's say you're a member of a tribe, and that in that tribe, you have the biological female anatomy, and in order to become a woman in that tribe, you have to also get a tattoo. That's a social experience that's mapped onto biological reality.
So can a woman have a prostate?
Can a woman have a prostate? Biologically speaking, a woman is an adult human female that has a biological reality, but it's also social experience, right? So I don't...
Yeah, it's super easy. Like, can a woman have a prostate?
So as per my definition of woman, I would say that people who have a prostate are biologically male, but they can sometimes be socially treated as women.
Okay, got it. So women can have prostates. Got it. Okay. So you're a feminist that actually isn't just fighting for women, you're also fighting for men.
So, yes, men also experience harms from patriarchy, but I argue...
We're talking about the same feminism, though, just make sure. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So, men also experience harm from patriarchal domination, but I would argue that those harms come from that system of domination itself. In the same way, for example, this isn't a threat, but if I reached across and punched you in the face, then my hand might hurt. Right? So, are we understanding that there are, patterns of power? So, I would also fight for the rights of men as a feminist, just as I would fight for the rights of women.
Sure. You think women are happier than they were 40 years ago?
I think I would have a few responses to that. I think that women report more stress and dissatisfaction today because, not because they have more rights or because of feminism, but because they're under dual pressure to both excel professionally and also because of the domestic labor in homes that is structured around outdated expectations. So
I'm so tired of women putting pressure on themselves and then men being told that it's part of the patriarchy. Like, women play these games where they're like, oh, we always have to dress up and we can't wear the same outfit twice. And it's like, yeah, because other women will give you a hard time. Oh, we're being pressured to advance in careers. You're not being pressured to advance in careers by the general male population. You guys are doing it to yourselves. You guys have shamed women for choosing the option to be mothers and stay-at-home mothers and things like that, and you see it as a bad thing, some remnant of the oppressive past, when it's just a life choice someone makes, and then you pressure yourselves into going out and, you know, getting that bag and being a boss babe and stuff like that, and then you complain about how there's pressure. It's just silly.
Studies like the OECD's Better Life Index show that women's life expectancy, education levels, professional achievements have risen in countries with higher gender inequality. So I would argue that what you're calling unhappiness is actually visibility, because now we hear women expressing dissatisfaction, whereas in the 50s, we prescribed them Valium and we lobotomized.
Yeah. That's really rich. I didn't know women not to complain 50 years ago. That's funny. No, hold on a second. Why are suicide rates going up more for women?
I think that
Forget complaining. Materially, women are killing themselves more. Why is that?
I think that even if both men and women have become unhappier, men's suicide rates have risen as well, and that's also been exponential. Can you at least concede that feminism offers only one potential explanation? There could be also other explanations.
Of course, obviously, but feminism is the glaring thing in front of us, where we have fertility rates down, we have marriage rates down, we have unhappiness up, And we did something in the 1960s out of the universities of Brady Friedan and Gloria Steinem and all these feminists that basically said, you're trapped in a home, go get a job, freeze your eggs, take birth control. And all of a sudden, women are way unhappier than they were 40 years ago. And I just have to ask the question, why is that? Is it working? And maybe there are biological differences between men and women that we should respect, and that deep down a lot of women want to get married and have children. In fact, we should applaud it, and we should support it, and we should say it means nothing if you're going to go be a CEO of some shoe company or be some banker in London. What matters if you raise children and you have something to pass down long after you're gone.
I think I would bring 2 points to that. The first one is just really simple, which is that you can ascribe liberalism all you want as the cause of the unhappiness. I would argue something else. I would say that it's certain economic policy that has very little to do with the social acceptance of alternative lifestyles. I would say that we can recognize that income inequality across a vast swathe of Western countries has increased, which causes all kinds of social ills, a lack of social cohesion, housing price growth doesn't correspond with wage growth, monopolies increasingly become kind of emboldened to interfere with politics, and monopolies don't prioritize social health either. I think that those offer more compelling reasons for a decline in happiness than an increase in freedoms, because just one more thing, on an intuitive basis, generally speaking, people want more freedom, not less.
Okay, so if that's true, why is it? Do you agree that the happiest women of the West are married with kids?
I would have to look into it, but I think there are certain
and objectively we know that, right? The women with kids are not the ones tearing down statues, right? They're the ones that actually have obligations.
Does tearing down statues correspond to some kind of smiles per capita data set that I wasn't aware of?
Again, it's a little bit of a one-liner.
Nobody's going out and shouting angrily and tearing down statues because they're so happy about an issue. That's the point.
And the happy and the grateful usually don't go burn down Wendy's in their spare time, of which we saw in our country all throughout a single summer. But as a side note, you would agree, objectively, study after study, survey after survey, that the women of the West that are married and have children, especially a lot of children, are far happier than even the ones that earn more money correlated at the same age.
So I also don't think that happiness is a very good metric, and neither do you, because you think gay people shouldn't just pursue happiness by being gay. They have other moralistic considerations to be making. So I don't think smiles per capita is a particularly convincing way to measure whether or not we should encourage women to be autonomous. I think we should maximize agency within a fair system that has reasonable parameters because it's expedient, it's good for the economy, it's logical, it's the moral thing, because if we can't prove the material harms, we shouldn't discourage it. And also self-reported studies is a really flawed way to do psychology. It's the week before my university exams right now, and I'm standing here explaining the basic methodology behind survey collection in sociology, which you don't even think is a real subject, to Charlie Kirk. If I took one of those surveys right now, I'd check extremely miserable. But so would a Palestinian child who's been torn to smithereens. How are we going to measure?
You would say extremely miserable?
No, I'm kind of making a joke.
No, I mean, but seriously,
Yeah, I kind of know where Charlie's going to go with this, but it's like, you're a privileged, young, healthy person who's at fucking Cambridge University, and you're going to describe your life, even if it's a joke, as being completely miserable, and you're going to make a comparison to someone who's a child in Palestine that's being carpet bombed and destroyed as kind of having the same outlook on life. That right there should make her, not Charlie Kirk, react. That should make herself react to her own disillusions.
But hold on. I mean, that's an important point, though, is that the women in the West have it the best in the world, and yet they're way unhappier than women of sub-Saharan Africa. There's something fundamentally wrong here. Because the women of sub-Saharan Africa have something that a lot of women in the West do not have. The women in the West have cats, and they have good jobs, and the women of sub-Saharan Africa, they have a belief in the divine, and they have kids. And maybe there's a biological undercurrent that is keeping a lot of women from realizing their full potential. And so without reading your phone and just connecting.
I'm not really reading my phone.
Well, it's fine. Sure, then you can answer without it. Fair enough.
No, the entire time she's been reading her phone, and she thinks that she sounds smart and intelligent by speaking as fast as she can. She's just talking to him and asking him questions. It's like, you don't sound smart. It's like people like Destiny do that. They talk as fast as they can, and then they shout and they get loud every time you say something, because they can pretend like they're so shocked at the absurdity of what you just said, but he's the one telling you that pregnant men exist.
Do you agree that it's a good thing that more women get married and have children in the West?
I would ask you, would you say that a sub-Saharan African woman who's experienced female genital mutilation and checks extremely happy in a survey, and I also would check extremely happy in a survey, who do you think would be objectively more happy, even if they both check the same answer?
No, again, so I fully, if you want to talk about how Islam mistreats women, we could talk all day long. I'm all for that.
Me too.
Okay, good. So we agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
We actually
agree
have
on many things.
And we should shut off Muslim immigration to the UK, right? We totally agree.
I think that all religious fundamentalism is bad, and if you take that logic, we should also not allow evangelical Christians into the UK either.
Hold on. So hold on a second. Hold on. That's funny. Hold on. Can you show me a single Show me, what would your example, because I have 50, of a single Christian country that you would say mistreats women right now?
America.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We had a female woman vice president. We had a female vice president, a female speaker of the House. Women earn more than men in America.
In Rwanda, female representation in government supersedes the UK by quite a lot. Do women get treated better in Rwanda?
Okay, I might be super off this. Like, is Rwanda Islamic? Like, I'm not totally sure. I don't think it is. Like, is it? Like, I don't know, actually. It's not. So, again, we were just talking about Islam. It's a little bit of a side note. But you must be morally clear, because you brought up female genital mutilation, which is a teaching of the Islamic faith. But as a side note, like, again, this is very important, which is, I'm not here to require you to do anything or not. I'm making a simple observation, which is objectively true regardless. The women of the West are miserable, and they're miserable for a reason, because we've told them to suppress how they are made by God and pursue something else and get a bunch of trinkets and get a bunch of promotions, and they end up at 38 years old with a big flat in London, and they're miserable. And we should tell them to stop freezing their eggs and start finding their partner earlier and have lots of babies.
Yeah, okay, I think I'd bring two just final points to this. First one is just really intuitive, right, which is that if you actually care about women's happiness, then the solution is to structurally support them. That means universal childcare, shared legally enforceable parental leave, and in Nordic countries where women have high workforce participation and also some state support, they report higher life satisfaction than in more conservative countries, including America. So if your metric is happiness,
just use satisfaction
equality
surveys. You just told me they're BS.
So are satisfaction surveys bullshit or not? Because you told me they're bullshit.
Do you acknowledge satisfaction surveys or not? You just told me that they're BS. Do you think they're we can use that as data?
I don't think that
yes or no?
It is the only sole data set, but it is a data set that necessarily
you told me they're
matters.
so flawed and you self-report. Okay, by the macro self-satisfaction data, I am correct. And you are right. When you have paid family leave, you are happier. I'm actually a proponent of that. At Turning Point USA, we pay for 6 months when somebody has a child. I think there's a lot of agreement we can have on that. We need to encourage having more children. I think the Hungarian child policy is phenomenal. We should look at that, because the greatest thing that is plaguing the West is we're not having enough kids. And it's not just bad because we won't have a future. It's also bad because the present is awfully miserable for too many women as well.
Okay, in which case I think we get...
Start bringing this to a close, please.
Okay, I think just one final thing, which is that in which case we get to a really interesting argument about what parts of womanhood can be demarcated to the social and what kinds of womanhood can be demarcated to biological. So, for example, my anatomy is demarcated to the biological, but the fact that I might potentially be a better nurturer than a man, I would demarcate that to the social, you might demarcate that to the biological, in which case we have differing moral scales of value. I would ask why we should necessarily prioritize your moral scale of value, which prioritizes things like the birth rate, when in actual fact there are various other moral scales of value. And if you yourself are a free market American, why is it the case that you would not, like the previous speaker noted,
I've already answered
extend personal freedoms towards all spheres, including a private sphere?
I believe in absolute truth claims, and it's absolutely wrong and bad when a society stops having kids to replace their own population. And then
I mean, that's the end of the video. She didn't do too bad. There's a lot of people that think they got like these gotcha moments because they'll get people who agree with them in the crowd to clap loudly. But it's really not necessarily proving a point. She did make some points in there that I would agree with. She made some points there that I definitely would not agree with. Charlie Kirk did well, as always. This format is kind of interesting, and I wouldn't want to be up there, like, honestly. That'd be an intimidating place to have a debate openly on camera, knowing that Charlie Kirk has, over 3 million subscribers on even just YouTube, and you might make yourself all over the internet as the next viral clip if you mess up or misspeak or something. So, props to her for getting up there in the first place. And this was like a good little back and forth. If anything, I would say that, Charlie Kirk is a lot more experienced in this. And this girl, she could benefit by kind of like watching this and seeing how fast she's speaking and just staring at her phone the entire time. Charlie Kirk's not even holding a phone. He's just kind of like just standing there and talking. And it looks like she's just trying to see how fast she can read into the microphone. And, it's really not that impressive. But some of her points, she started off well, especially with her definition of what a woman is. But then, of course, she has to inject all this modern BS into it and try to, relate her level of happiness to a child in Palestine and to make it sound like, a woman in Rwanda might mark that she's happy, but she's had some kind of like past experience and trauma. But like the difference between the Western world, especially like the United States, Canada, the UK, stuff like that, is the rest of the world doesn't identify themselves as their life trauma. So someone in Rwanda may have been exactly what that girl was talking about. She may have been mutilated at some point in time, but there just kind of seems to be this different outlook on life where you don't try to see how much of a victim you are. Someone may have a traumatic experience like that, and their takeaway would be, well, at least I still have my children, and my children are healthy, and at least I'm a survivor, and at least I still get to wake up tomorrow and, praise be to this, praise be to that. It's a mentality thing. It's about gratitude. There's people in this country who, they're 28 years old and they're still living with the trauma of how their parents divorced when they were 9 and things like that. And it's like, I feel for anybody who's had bad things happen in their life, and I know that everybody kind of deals with bad experiences in their own way. But there is a better and a worse way of dealing with things. And the way that she explained that she would respond to a survey about happiness, the same as someone in a war-torn and just kind of like terrorist rampant kind of place that's people are just not in their homes, and it's like you can't even recognize what used to be hospitals and schools and things like that. It just kind of shows this strange mentality that we have where everyone's got main character syndrome and everybody thinks that everything is about them, and happiness right now should be the most important pursuit, et cetera, et cetera. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for tuning in to MurrayMax. Feel free to give us a like or subscribe, or don't. Like I say all the time, I can't hate on that because I watch plenty of videos that I don't like and subscribe to, but I would appreciate it, and thanks for tuning in.